There's a federal election on the horizon, but Australia's voting maps are being redrawn and your electorate may well have changed. So welcome to the redistribution rumble, where we look at all the major new democratic fault lines and which political party will emerge with the upper hand. Now, for those of us who learnt about democracy via the West Wing or Scandal, you might be getting a little worried about gerrymandering. But luckily for us, in Australia, it's the Electoral Commission, not the politicians, that get to decide these boundaries. Each electorate should have roughly the same number of voters in them, which means that New South Wales, Victoria and Western Australia are now due for a pretty significant shake-up. Let's start in Western Australia, who are receiving a brand spanking new electorate in Perth's booming outer east. It's called Bullwinkle. Based on the last election data, Labor should just have the upper hand here. But of course, the last election was an absolute knockout victory for Labor in WA. If the odds have evened out a bit since then, the Liberals may well win this freshly minted seat. Over in the Victorian arena, comparatively slow population growth in Melbourne's inner east has left the electorate of Higgins on the chopping block. Given not one but two different Liberal Prime Ministers hailed from Higgins, you might think that this is a blow to the coalition, but actually it's Labor who should be worried, as they narrowly turned the electorate red in 2022. So not only are they now losing a seat, but the Labor vote in nearby Chisholm and Hotham will be diluted as their borders shift to fill the purple void. That being said, the shake-up may well flip Menzies to Labor, and the already tiny Liberal margin in Deakin will shrink to almost nothing. A new battlefield has also opened up for the Greens in Victoria as these two electorates move south. I mean, sure, the seat of Melbourne might become slightly less safe, but Wills will be pulled away from its loyal Labor territory here and into the Green zone, cutting the red margin in half. Now, winning Wills this election would still be a stretch for the minor party, but it is now far closer to striking distance. And finally to New South Wales, where one of the oldest electorates in the country is being abolished, North Sydney, which has existed in some form since Federation. Once again, this used to be a blue ribbon Liberal hangout, but then the teal wave of 2022 saw it go independent. On the other hand, Labor has long struggled to get a foothold here, which is bad news for their MP in Bennelong, who will absorb many of the former North Sydney voters. In fact, based on last election's result, Labor will lose this seat. When it comes to the regions of New South Wales, the most significant shifts are in this area, with the marginal Labor seat of Eden Monaro shrinking to the west and growing in the north, absorbing a decent chunk of the safe Liberal seat Hume. Perhaps not enough to flip it based on 2022 data, but Eden Monaro is known as a bit of a bellwether, with their results often reflecting the party that will go on to win. So definitely one to keep an eye on election night. Besides the independent loss in North Sydney, these three state rumbles seem to have basically balanced each other out, with Labor and the coalition generally gaining as many seats as they lose, at least if we go off 2022 data. But of course, times and votes change. Plus, there's hundreds of smaller adjustments all across these states that may well add up to something significant too.